And we're clear! Welcome everybody, and this is the continuation of retro reruns, or retro throwbacks, the DCEU. We've all heard the good, the rise of the DCEU, especially how, even though we had a shaky start at the beginning, they still managed to pull it around. But that story is not here. Whatever happened previously in the DCEU was a good start. Not gonna lie, we had a bad, terrible run up with Batman vs Superman, the Suicide Squad, even our Justice League movie, but piece by piece, the franchise was actually working towards the solo characters. Wonder Woman just got a movie, Aquaman got a movie, Shazam just had a movie come out that current year, but also that means we're gonna enter a new shakeup of the DCEU, where there were some rumors at the beginning where some cast members were getting fired, some people were leaving out of their own behalf, like we lost Henry Cavill, we lost Ben Affleck, we almost lost a bit of movie characters that were going to show up but weren't going to show up. Like, we lost some of the Suicide Squad members, we lost everybody from Deadshot, Will Smith, to possibly some other characters we might or might not have seen again, like Enchantress. Maybe even Rick, who else am I? The Captain Boomerang, but they still managed to stick around for some future movies in this franchise. But let's get to the first one of this new shakeup, because around Suicide Squad, everybody loved Harley Quinn. I did too, and not gonna lie, Margot Robbie's performance actually made me think, she really empowered this character. Can't wait to see her in a Batman movie at some point. But no, we weren't getting that, or in another Suicide Squad sequel. What happened is that we actually got a Harley Quinn spin-off movie, which wasn't even called Harley Quinn, but it managed to be something different, introduce new characters to the DCEU, but something about this was special, and I'll tell you why after this.
You know what a Harlequin is? A Harlequin's role is to serve. It's nothing without a master. No one gives two shits who we are beyond that. The Joker and I broke up. I wanted a fresh start. But it turns out I wasn't the only dame in Gotham looking for emancipation.
Spectacular news! Miss Quinn, she belongs to me.
Who are you guys?
Here's the deal, Quinn. You need me!
He's after all of us now. None of us are walking out of here unless we work together. Isn't this fun? It's just like a sleepover. We should order pizza. Big cosmos. Really, focus. I'm the one they should be scared of. Not you. Not Mr. J. Because I'm Harley freaking Quinn.
Who's having a good time?
Get ready, ladies. Oh, you're that psycho chick. I never call a woman a chick. I'll accept broad, lady, woman, and on occasion, bitch. Bitch? What are you talking about? For me, will you?
Whoa, that was a bit too early and too fast. Sorry about that. So, Birds of Prey. I don't know what to say about this one, because we had a movie come out earlier on, before this release. Everybody might know about it. It's a small independent film called Joker. It managed to make $1 billion at the box office, and not only that, was unique because it was our first R-rated movie from the DC franchise, where we've had a couple R-rated movies before, but this is like the newest, or should I say the first time they're actually trying this out, because Marvel had their stuff with Deadpool and Logan, DC, they weren't sure where they could do an R-rated movie yet, because I know they did Watchmen and V for Vendetta, but something about it said, okay, we're gonna do this with the DCEU and do this for Birds of Prey. So I'm like, okay, they're hiding some of the stuff because they introduced Harley with her team, filled with Black Canary, Huntress, Renee Montoya, and our opposing villains, which this one I was excited for in concept, where we had Black Mask and Victor Zsasz. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, so we're going to have possibly Batgirl or anybody in this in some way actually doing the Birds of Prey. But no, we have two of the members, plus a cop, and a Batwoman that's not even Batwoman yet. Except they actually changed her up, where I noticed some of the changes in characters because I have to remember, this is Gotham City. I know these Batman characters inside and out, and hopefully, since we're farther into the DC universe where everything exists, we know that Ben Affleck's Batman had his adventures, he had some experience with some sidekicks in the past, and already fought his villains, so I'm thinking, okay, some of them would at least show up now that we're in Gotham, and Black Mask being one of them, I was like, okay, now we're going to the underground part of Gotham. But no, we went out for a female-led comedy where it's part Suicide Squad, and the fact that it did the little intros to the team, introducing who's who, and the storytelling was a bit almost going back and forth, showing what happened in the past and where each character is going to end up going towards, since Cassandra Cain stole a diamond from Roman, and everything led to her and this diamond, which I had to think, this, it doesn't make sense for the fact that nobody knows who these characters are. And this is when I noticed some of the things DC had where its issue wasn't just storytelling, it was also a way of introducing new characters for their universe. Because I remember when in the original plans we were going to have Justice League 2, that every movie was going to have a new member and join the team. And they didn't have movies planned up yet, because I remember Green Lantern was supposed to be the original character showing up in Justice League. Then we were going to have Green Arrow introduced and also bring in Black Canary. But we actually have Black Canary in this movie, and it's Dinah, but that would tell me that her and Oliver have to have been on the streets, right? And we didn't get a clear answer. The only thing we got was just that those characters are out there, but they're nothing yet. Like, Green Arrow exists somewhere in the DC universe, but he's not anything in the Justice League, or he's just in Central City. Oh no, that wasn't even his city. Damn, I'm thinking of the Flash. But yeah, each of them are out in their own tiny little adventures, not even a part of the Justice League. And I guess it looks like it's just the 7 of them in the league. But this confused up the timeline for me, and also the fact that it's a light-hearted R rating where they don't have blood. They have blood, but everything is not as gory as you thought. It's the most basic cable R-rated censored movie, and even if they showed it in theaters, it wouldn't matter. The only thing was that they got a chance to use the words fuck, but not go that far with it. Even Black Mask, they messed up his character, because Ewan McGregor, I'm like, okay, I could see that, mob boss in Gotham, but they made him a bit flamboyant, where I'm like, is he not, or is he supposed to be like over exaggerated and threatening? Because when he's wearing the mask, he is that character, and is actually scary to look at, since they made the mask not an actual silver chrome style mask, but it's like a mask, but he still looks threatening. But him outside the mask, I'm like, I know what they're doing with this, trying to at least make it a bit ridiculous, but it's not working for me, especially since he's one of the hardest DC characters in Gotham, and it's the first time we're going to see him in a movie, and also the last, because he blew up at the very end. And Victor Zsasz, one of the craziest psychopaths in Gotham, we didn't get to see him actually maul up bodies. We did for a second, but it would have been cool to actually see him kill someone, then put in a scar in his stomach or on his side or something like that, since that's what he's known for. But no, we got introductions to Black Canary, Huntress. Huntress was interesting enough where I'm like, they could spin you off into a series or a movie on HBO Max, but that didn't happen. And was the last DC movie we got at the time for the pandemic, because around this time we had to deal with the whole COVID-19 2020 issue, where everything up until March was canceled. Movie theaters were closing and everything was being delayed, and we didn't know when we would see them. And next up on the schedule, we had one we were supposed to get that May, Wonder Woman 1984, where everybody was thinking, okay, everybody knows the first one was good, and now that we're continuing that story off, I have no problems with this one, especially since they introduced characters like Cheetah, Maxwell Lord, and rumor that Steve Trevor would come back, which we all saw the first one. He died in the plane. So what does that mean? How is he coming back? But we got an interesting premise that could have worked, but sadly it didn't.
My life hasn't been what you probably think it has. We all have our struggles.
Have you ever been in love?
A long, long time ago. You?
So many times. Yeah, all the time.
Welcome to the future. Life is good, but it can be better. And why shouldn't it be? All you need is to want it. Think about finally having everything you always wanted.
I can save today, but you can save the world.
Stay.
Now, I take what I want in return. Everyone must see. The world needs you. You know what you need to do.
Nothing good is born from lies. And greatness is not what you think. It's all art. That's just a trash can.
It's just a trash can. Yeah.
At first, the only thing I knew about it was that they were introducing Cheetah. It was going to take place in the past, and me thinking, okay, it's in 1984, so this tells me they're going on a path of every 10 years they're going to be going through a different type of event. Since the first one was World War One, this told me that this could either take place in the Cold War, and weirdly enough, I feel like some of it was changed because this had to deal with magic and the Wishing Rock or the Rock of Eternity with Maxwell Lord, which Pedro Pascal, it was his year since we saw him as the Mandalorian, and I liked seeing him, so I'm like, okay, he's in, oh yeah, he is in this, so I had to see him in 1984, and he did the most to save this movie. He was a good villain, interestingly enough, and with the exaggeration of this character, I'm like, it fits. It's giving 80s style Donald Trump isms, but oh my god, I can't believe it. But it's weirdly enough that this character is not like how he is in the lore, but he is returning in the new universe in Superman Legacy. So I want to know how that's gonna figure into it. But when he was introduced, I'm like, okay, it's ridiculous. Wishing Rock. Okay, if that's how everything is gonna go down, and a recurring factor I noticed between this one and Birds of Prey is that these two movies feel like this was under some new bridge of we gotta follow Marvel now that they're doing the lighthearted stuff and comedy, where they changed some scenes up. Instead of being serious, they were made out to be like jokes, and once you start getting emotional in certain parts, like you're supposed to show off how you feel it's not like connecting because you're like, I don't care since everything has been ridiculous up to this point. Like Diana, where she cared about Steve, but now suddenly with The Rock, it's like she doesn't care no more. Where she met him and then she hasn't moved on from it. I know it's a thing recurring in comic book movies where if a loved one died in the past, you still want them back, but giving him up didn't make it seem like there was a huge payoff because he's not real. And with the wishing rock, if I know they changed it up a bit because the wish had limits, like every person would get one wish, but it's the rock of eternity where even if you're giving people wishes, you should at least be aware that those things can actually bring them back. Even in death, everything is magic and it could still be fixed up. But it wasn't a big it was a success in theaters and on HBO Max, but with the fans in DC, I'm like, okay, you messed a couple things up, but now it's to that point where okay, DC is not as good as I think it is, but something between the pandemic was working and HBO Max was still in production around this time too because we had HBO Go. And with the new things like Disney Plus, we had Hulu actually boosting up their numbers and Netflix taking over during the pandemic. We had no movies in mind, but everybody at Warner knew it was time we had to bring back a couple requests on what to put on their streaming service, and leading us all to one of the greatest miracles in cinema history. Not only did a movie get made, but an apology to what could have been amazing the first time.
The bells been rung. But in the dark, among the stars, the god is dead. I had a dream. Almost like a premonition. Like there's an attack coming. My lord, what should we wait for? I need warriors. I'm building an alliance to defend ourselves. How do you know your team's strong enough? If you can't bring down the charging bull, then don't wave the red cape at it. You were sent here for a reason. And even if it takes you the rest of your life, find out what that reason is.
He said the age of heroes would never come again.
It will. It has to. We live in a society where honor is a distant memory. Isn't that right? Batman.
Answers were heard, and all the praises were given when Warner Brothers finally announced, you know what? Let's do the Snyder Cut. And it was finally time for fans to get the movie they wanted the first time. HBO gave Zack Snyder $70 million to finish a couple things in his movie, but the twist was that this movie would be 4 hours long, which I was thinking, wait a minute, what does that mean 4 hours long? Because leading up to its release, we had a couple bit of news like, okay, it's going to be a TV series where it's going to be mixed up of 6 episodes. I'm like, so 6 episodes to tell a story? Okay, let's see how that goes, because every episode would mean there's like 40 something minutes, and this tells me it's going to be either a 3 or 4-ish hour movie leading up to it, including credits. I don't know if I'm gonna go week by week with that, or if it's gonna drop at once. I'm gonna be able to binge it all. And until the final result was, it was a 4-hour movie, where I caught it by accident. It's the week before, somebody, I don't know who at HBO, leaked it early, where I was gonna play Tom and Jerry, and then the actual Snyder Cut played, and I started watching it from the beginning up until part one hit the screen, and we were meeting up with Aquaman, and then the screen reset, and I was like, no, why? It was right here. But I had to wait a week more just to see the whole thing. And to my surprise, I binged those 4 hours early in the morning and watched it again at night with my dad, because you don't understand. When the whole Batman versus Superman thing was going on, we're like, okay, we're gonna lead up to Justice League, and we heard all the stuff, all the changes and stuff, and we didn't get the movie we wanted. We got a combination of two different minds, and the first one didn't work, but this one added a couple things where I'm like, okay, where I had to rewatch the original version first, because I was like, okay, let me watch this one, and then when I can watch the Snyder Cut, let's see the mix-up of what they did and what they didn't do. We got a couple of scenes, like, there are certain ones I noticed weren't there, but I noticed how in the trailers, okay, that was cut. I remember seeing that, but I don't know where that came from. Like, Cyborg's backstory, which I did mention in the previous episode that we didn't get to see Cyborg become Cyborg, but we actually saw his origin story with Victor Stone playing for the football team, doing his good, getting into the car accident with his mom, and his dad using whatever things he could in his lab to fix him, up until he used the mother box and actually turned him into Cyborg, giving him all this power and actually doing some good, because he's a living computer, and his dad actually helped him practice it where he could actually help people online. And also a thing they did in Doom Patrol, which I appreciate, they actually kind of did it in this, where Cyborg was monitoring this woman, and he saw that she was struggling with the rent, struggling to feed her family, until he puts in money in her account through technology and actually gives her some help. Which I'm like, oh, I want to see that now that we can actually see Cyborg as a character. He's not just the machine. That was cool to see. Even some extended stuff with Wonder Woman and a bit of Batman, because in the movie, Batman was set out like, I'm trying to find these people, and I'm basically trying to bring back Superman because I know the world needs him. But in this movie, you actually see how the team dynamic is not as feisty as it was, because I remember in the movie, in the original version, how the team was fighting with each other, like the whole Steve Trevor thing, like Batman saying, you're trying to bring him back. Wouldn't you do the same for Steve? And a little caused tension in the group. Even Diana saying, it's not your fault, I know you miss him, but I'm like, but this doesn't make sense after what happened previously in the last movie. And some of those things are cut out, and you can tell who's who with between scenes, because there were certain jokes that were left in, like one of them was from the trailer in the original version, but not in this one, because I can tell Zack Snyder shot it first, was the Arthur Curry, I see you can talk to fish. That scene is not in there, but some other parts, like the whole when Aquaman leaves, you can tell that it's actually in water, and the background wasn't a green screen. In certain scenes, you can see the colors fluently mix in. Even give a little intro to Lois Lane and some new information we didn't get the first time. Like, we found out that Lois was pregnant. We found out that, surprisingly, Martha Kent was actually Martian Manhunter in disguise, which I don't know if that theory was like he was on Earth this whole time. He was just checking in on Superman and what happened since he died. But not only that, but he was keeping tabs on Lois, giving a bit of explanation to how Lois is the key in the previous movie. And not only that, but even the sequences with Steppenwolf, because when he showed up in the original, he would look like some PS2 graphic level bad guy villain. I was like, who this can't be. But when you look at him in the Snyder Cut, his movements, everything looked fluid, as a continued, like what I said previously, that Zack Snyder knows the character designs, and he used certain elements of his own lore to change it up for this new universe. Like Steppenwolf having metal armor, not golden, but it's more silver texture-ish, where it controls with his body, gives him spikes. Even the fight with the Amazons. But what I appreciate is that they actually did give a bit of lore to Steppenwolf. Like, he's the uncle of Darkseid, who's actually been shunned out and sent to Earth to actually invade. But what they didn't realize is that Earth was the world that Darkseid lost, and everything was feeling so contact with the universe, where Darkseid was like, "Oh, this is the planet I lost." Where I was looking for the anti-life equation, which we didn't hear that in the previous movie. Not only that, but also that this is the world that Darkseid was actually on, where we saw a flashback where we saw the gods, the world of men, the not Kryptonians, the Atlanteans, the Amazons, and not only that, creatures from different worlds, which we actually got a proper look at our Green Lantern of this world. And for the amount of time he was on screen, he did the most to handle his power. He did die, but also the ring did go past Darkseid, but it could have chosen Darkseid since it stayed there until he was actually attacked by Zeus. And not only that, but Darkseid was the thing I wanted to see, but I didn't think I was going to actually see it on screen. His appearance, not only that, but his design was so Darkseid. I was like, okay, I can't wait for you to show up in the next movie, but we're getting a glimpse of it here. But no, this was amazing, and also the future Batman visions, because we didn't get to see a lot of it in this movie until the very end. But for the little glimpse that we saw, where it's the scene when Batman and Batman, we all get to resurrect Superman, and Cyborg goes in and looks into how everything could go wrong, and he sees a bit of the future where not everyone's dead. There's a group of survivors out there trying to survive apocalypse or Earth. Superman holding Lois Lane's body and actually carrying Batman's mask over the Hall of Justice with a dead lantern, which could have been Kilowog, but we didn't get to see him yet. But everything was destroyed, everything connected in between worlds. Like, oh, so this is what's gonna happen, because we knew that there was an invasion, but we didn't get to see the consequences or any impact of what the invasion can do, because when you watch the original version, all you see is that they're trying to stop Steppenwolf. That's not a thing that they have to stop and prevent. That's a thing they have to do, and it felt like nothing. But in this movie, you get to see like, oh, we're taking everything seriously now. This is where it's all gonna lead to, and especially the final fight, like when they resurrect Superman. He goes over to the farm, and instead of saying some dialogue of like, "Oh, death was itchy. I don't know how to feel like my purpose," Clark actually got to talk to Lois and be like, "This is my second chance. I can't give up on this world, and I'm seeing everything for how things are. I was hated, but I can see right past that and be the man I was once destined to be." And you get to see him actually wear the black suit, which I kind of thought at first, because you do see it in a brief glimpse of it in Man of Steel, in the dream sequence with Zod. You do see him wearing the black suit, so that made me think, oh, so this is foreshadowed. Now we're going to see him wear the black suit in Justice League. But he got the Man of Steel suit again, which I'm surprised how it survived through that whole thing, because it was destroyed. But, Superman, okay, those are his colors. And we actually got to see him don the black suit throughout the end fight. Not only that, but surprisingly, Darkseid wins, since Superman comes back last minute, and Flash got knocked out by one of the parademons. And while he's trying to heal up to go travel back in time again, or at least slow down the process, Darkseid's portal opens, and the mother box explodes, connecting. But Flash, being the Flash, got to be able to stop time, because earlier on in the movie, he's like, I have a rule about going back in time, because there are certain things that could happen, and I haven't crossed that line yet. But this was the first time we actually went into the Speed Force, went back in time, and the imagery was so unique, because it's almost like the Flashpoint animation, but in reverse. Like, instead of seeing the universe glow up and actually start chasing Barry to erase him, everything is blown already, and Flash is running back and fixing everything the way it was as he runs, leading up to Cyborg. But I had to look at the original movie and be like, Flash didn't do a thing except save a family, which had no reason being there, since that whole wasteland site was abandoned. But I don't know why that was added, and it made no sense with context. But he saved the world. He went back and actually did his thing, and I was like, why was out of all the things to cut, you cut this? And also, even that, when Flash ran back, you get to see a bit of Cyborg again going into his mind and actually saying, "I'm not a monster. I'm not a machine," and actually feel like he's a connected with the Mother Box and actually feel like he's an actual hero. Like he wasn't just a mistake because Silas Stone died in the middle of it, and he actually felt human instead of the what he portrayed himself out to be. Not only that, but also one of the coolest deaths I've seen in this universe, where there was this one CGI scene in the original version where Wonder Woman jumps, cuts Steppenwolf's axe, and then she dives down. But in this scene, right when everything is right, turn back to normal, like everything is right at its absolute point, you see Aquaman stab Steppenwolf through the chest, throw him towards the portal with Darkseid, and that same scene, Wonder Woman jumps, slices his head off, and it lands right in front of Darkseid with him just stepping over it and crushing it, and him looking at the League like, this is what defeated us, and there's an actual Kryptonian in front of me. We lost, but rally the troops. It's time to bring back the old ways. And that was it with Darkseid. Everything was brought back, and the Batman visions were back, where we got to see the future early on in this movie, but we got to see actual characters like Deathstroke, Mara, which had an accent, I don't know why, Barry, Cyborg, and Joker, again played by Jared Leto, which I appreciate how weeks in advance Zack Snyder said, "Oh, Jared Leto's coming back for the Joker in Justice League." I was like, but why? It's kind of weird. I don't know where he would fit in all this. And he was part of the future Nightmare Visions, which I'm thinking, oh, so that means if they're bringing him back, does that mean everything is going to go back to the way it was? Now we're going to actually see what's going to continue with the story? Because at first I'm like, why is Joker still alive and all this? But then again, I'm like, there's a reason why he's alive. I don't know why, but I don't trust it. And even knowing that this is the first and last time we're seeing Ben Affleck's Batman and Jared Leto's Joker on screen, but not on screen, because everything was shot so close to the face. Like, it reminded me of a couple scenes from Army of the Dead, which came a bit, I think 2 months after this, where everything was close to their faces and also hidden in blurs. I don't know why he chose that type of styling, because I know the movie was a 4:3 aspect ratio, but it felt kind of off to me. I like the scene, but it's a bit too much close up to the face. But not only that, we also got a bit of that resolution with Lex Luthor, because the first movie had a post-credit scene setting up Deathstroke and him going to Lex Luthor saying, "You better not be wasting my time. Maybe we should have a league of our own." And instead of that, we actually got we actually got Lex Luthor reveal that Bruce Wayne is Batman to Deathstroke, which actually felt like setup to what could have been Ben Affleck's The Batman movie, but it never got made. We got a leaked concept of that in early on in Comic-Con when the final trailer came out, and they showed a piece of Deathstroke in it. So I'm thinking Deathstroke is going to be in this movie somewhere, but it's either that or a Batman movie. I can't wait to see where he pops up next. And Martian Manhunter also appearing at the very end, saying that the anti-life equation is here somewhere, and I'll be here standing towards you guys to fight for it. And Bruce is like, "Thank you for joining us." And everything just ends off like, wow, this was the movie we should have gotten, and you're telling me that they saw this and said no, with its, even though it fixed a bit of the flaws with the two previous movies, like it wasn't as dark as it should have been, and it also showed how characters learn from their past mistakes. But this wasn't the biggest success Warner Brothers wanted to deal with at the time. I'm like, you could have released an hour and 40-minute version of this movie and it would have been fine. But that was it. Everything after abandoned what could have been a good franchise, especially now knowing what was going to happen, what was going to be the plot advancing in the next couple movies. But we moved on to other plans, one of which would be the predecessor of but the thing that could have actually fixed up the universe, but we're going to see how it's going to deal next year in 2025.
You know the deal. Successfully complete the mission, you get 10 years off
The Suicide Squad. Around 2018, I believe, James Gunn was fired from Marvel over some old tweets, which cancel culture got in the way of some stuff around 2017 to 2020, I believe, around that point, where everything got too serious. And he was fired from Marvel, which Warner Brothers said, "Hey, James, you want to come over to us? Yeah, we want you to do a DC movie, and it could be anything you want." And a couple of things were, anything I want, huh? Yes, anything you want. I want to do Suicide Squad. And the execs over at Warner Brothers were like, "Suicide Squad? You sure you don't want to do a Superman movie?" He's like, "Nah, I want to do Suicide Squad." And we actually got a whole new roster of characters, which I remember some of the key ones at first. I'm like, okay, so they didn't say who's coming back. So I'm assuming Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, but they do him right this time. Hopefully they're going to replace some characters like Diablo died. We got Killer Croc, so I'm assuming we're going to get King Shark, maybe the Black Spider. Hopefully they try to bring in Killer Frost or Captain Cold, some other characters we haven't seen from the DC universe. But they brought in some eccentric characters I didn't think would be in this, because I'm like, okay, this character would make sense because it's from this villain. But there were other ones like they announced Ratcatcher. I'm like, who is Ratcatcher? I don't even know who that is. Weasel. I'm like, who's that? Mongol? That's interesting enough. I don't know who that is. Blackguard. I'm like, I know who that is, but really, Pete Davidson's playing him. But they brought in some of their heavy hitters, because they brought in Bloodsport, which I'm like, oh, I know who that is. He shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet that one time. King Shark, which I kind of be like, okay, I knew because the Harley Quinn cartoon series, they bringing him in. The Thinker, I was like, wait a minute, he was on the Flash. Wait, huh? Wait, does that mean he fought him in the world? But I'm like, oh, interesting. They're bringing in some characters throughout the whole DC universe and incorporating them into this. So I'm like, okay, that's got to be cool. And also the villain reveal, which I love when they put out pictures on set, but me being curious and looking at the backgrounds of stuff, I'm like, something about this is weird. I'm seeing pink and blue stuff in the back. What's a DC villain I know that's like pink and blue? Because I don't think it's ridiculous. And then the trailer came out, and oh my god, this picture was so surprising to me, where I'm like, no way they're gonna do this for this movie. Not only that, but they did announce that this was their second DC movie with an R-rated tone.
Supervillains. Sad souls in costumes. Wanting you to think they're all dark and deep. What's it like? Living life as a punchline. But all it would take would be one blessed act of rebellion. For you to restore your dignity in its entirety.
You know the deal. Complete the mission, you get 10 years off your sentence. You fail to follow my orders in any way, and I detonate the explosive device in the base of your skull.
Love him or hate him, these are your brothers and sisters for the next few days.
Any questions?
And
Yes, that is your hand. Very good.
We're all gonna die.
I hope so.
Oh, for God's sake. This is suicide.
Oh, that's kind of our thing.
Nothing like a bloodbath to start the day.
They call you Peacemaker.
I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it.
Was that true as a crazy one?
I am.
the deal? We fail the mission, you die.
If we find out any information you give us is false, you die.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
What? No.
Not only did we get an amazing movie, but we also got a new side of the DC universe where we didn't expect too much from this at first because I'm like, okay, they're going to do another Suicide Squad mission. It's going to deal somewhere else, almost like the first movie, except they're going to be dealing with somebody underground, hopefully one of the street gangs or something like that, but no. It was going to be the Suicide Squad versus Star the Conqueror, which I'm like, okay, this is not too far from James Gunn's alley when he did Guardians, but you gotta remember, these are street-level villains fighting aliens. That's not gonna be a thing. Coming up till now in 2024 where we're getting that Suicide Squad versus Justice League game, which I gotta see how I feel after I play it. But back to this, I'm like, okay, we're gonna be doing something new. Fighting Justice League level threats in their movie. And surprisingly, James Gunn did it. Not only bringing in a new set and tone, but also his comedy style, which he can do serious and funny and still make it mean something, because we got some backstory to Bloodsport, which it was rumored that he was going to replace Deadshot or actually be Deadshot, but at least they made him his own character, even though it was a funny commentary on how all these street level thug shooter people in the DC universe actually are the same but just different. Even some introductions like Peacemaker, which at first I'm like, okay, we're going to get this whole John Cena thing again. But he was actually good in the movie, and I'm like, okay, I can't wait to see you, because I heard earlier on they announced a Peacemaker series, and I'm like, okay, I can't wait to see you after this. And then later on, he betrays Rick Flag, which I'm like, okay, something tells me you're gonna go to jail, and hopefully this whole thing ends up fine, or it's gonna be a prequel series, because they didn't say what it was, but when he killed Rick Flag, I'm like, what? That can't be, no. And I felt bad for Rick Flag, because I'm like, damn, you were in the first movie, and for a movie called Suicide Squad, it actually lived up to his premise, because I didn't even mention this. We had a fuckload of people die in the very beginning of this movie, starting with Blackguard, then Michael Rooker's character. We had Javelin die, Mongol, Weasel for a fake out until they revealed it later, and Nathan Fillion as TDK, the detachable kid, in the funniest way, where his arms detach and they're just shooting his arms and he's just wobbling around all sad and crying. I gotta say, and the most shocking one of all, which this scared me, and I'm like, oh shit, was Captain Boomerang, because in the first movie he didn't do too much. And I know he's one of the top 3 in the squad in the comics. So I'm like, hopefully in this movie they're going to actually do him right. And they kill him in the first few minutes, where I'm like, oh, so this is the type of movie this is. Okay, now I'm scared. And everything was for real, had a risk. Because we knew in the first movie Slipknot was going to die, because he was the odd one out. So this told me, okay, so anybody can die in this movie, and we're going to feel bad when it happens. So I'm like, okay, hopefully we don't lose our mains. And weirdly enough, this had a habit of DC killing their own villains, because the Thinker died, a couple other side villains die. Not even that, but some ones I'm like, damn, this guy died, and it was unexpected. But the weakest one that ended up being one of the most interesting redos was Polka Dot Man, because he was in the 60s Batman, just a throwaway villain. But they actually gave him a backstory that he was experimented on, wanted to be a superhero, but his disease, or the polka dots, actually make him inferior to others and feminine. And he used his powers in a way that could actually save people. And when that happened, he died, which was sad enough. But we also got Ratcatcher introduced, which, okay, I don't know who this is. She doesn't feel like a villain, but she's just in jail because her father made this thing that could control rats. And it was a way to commit crimes, and she was just in jail suffering for those. But also Bloodsport, which, okay, is going to be the whole retread of him and his daughter, but also him having a relationship with Rick Flag, like they knew each other in the past. And he was just doing this just to show that he's a good guy to his daughter. And he did do that. Not only that, but also keeping the world from finding out all the information about Star the Conqueror, because it was America and Amanda Waller's team that brought him down and affected this whole country. But we're not going to get any resolution to that story. Where everything went fine, some of our remaining characters stayed. Harley's out there somewhere, but this told me, okay, with this movie doing good, hopefully we're going to see more from James Gunn, and this wasn't the last of it, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen, because we've been stuck 3 years for this show, but I'm still waiting for season 2, and hopefully we get that after he's done with Superman.
Jamil, you cool?
What does that mean?
Truth is, you're supposed to be in prison.
For what?
Superhero stuff.
What superhero are you?
Peacemaker.
Get out of here! There's no superhero called Peacemaker!
Dude, I'm famous.
You're a born killer with expertise in every weapon known to humankind. I'm giving you the chance to stay out of prison and work for me.
Kill people.
Bad people.
This is our court. You're a handler in the field. John Economist, Tech and Tactics. And this is our new recruit, the Bayo.
You don't have to shoot people after you already killed them.
Right. Who's the guy that's peeking out behind the trash can?
Vigilantes, trying to be helpful.
Our first target is Senator Roland Goff. Goff may be traveling with his family.
Are you sure those two kids came out of those parents? That's an attractive couple. That one looks like it came out of them, but the other one looks like a butt baby.
A butt baby.
Yeah, my older brother told me there's 2 types of babies. One that comes out normal, and then butt babies. Worse in every way, they come out of a woman's butt. Oh, I believed I was a butt baby until I was 13.
That explains a lot. There's something about him that's sad.
Hey, Dad.
I didn't mind Smyrna going to a dancing boy like you.
No, maybe I just think I'm a maniac.
No! That's because we're born killers. What separates us from other killers is we only kill bad people. Usually. Unless there's a mistake.
You use being a jerk as a way to push people away.
You suck at PowerPoint.
But if you would just drop that, people actually might like you.
Oh my God. He's hugging me. He's hugging me. Dad, grab my phone. I don't want to move. Dad?
Peacemaker was a new surprise to the DC Universe. Not only that, but also Disney Plus had their streaming service a year ago and had all of Phase 4's TV series in 1 year. Not only that, but DC said, we got a streaming service, we'll do this. And continuing on with the Suicide Squad and its humor, this was a mature rated series, and James Gunn did the most in every episode to say, oh, I'm going to take advantage of this universe and do whatever I want in it and include whatever references I can. Because this had throwaway references to characters people don't even know, like some of the ones like Batmite, which I never thought I would hear in a movie or in a show. Green Arrow, which it's funny how Stephen Amell responded with a joke saying Green Arrow's a total brony. He's like, oh no, everybody knows that. And he puts up a picture right after it. Not only that, but even weird callbacks to where, okay, I know his father is a Nazi, but I don't even know if they're gonna or if they're gonna actually do that in the show. But they actually show Robert Patrick do his thing and be as wildly offensive as it could, because this show was unhinged, and there were some moments I shouldn't be laughing, but I'm like, wow, this character can pull it off, because he's just a super villain. Like, yeah, Suicide Squad said, okay, they're villains, but we see them as good guys. No, he's a villain, and not just that, but a menace to society. And John Cena really played this role good because I didn't see him see him that much of a good actor at first, but I'm like, okay, he's the next one since The Rock and Batista are doing it. But I actually liked his way that he was just a broken person because he was abused by his dad, had to deal with his brother's death, which wasn't his fault, that made him grow into this personality. He's just a broken man, and it affected him throughout the show, especially to where his own friend Vigilante, which it's funny that I saw him on Arrow first, but see him in the show, I'm like, he's the type of friend you want, psychotic, and at least he cares about his friend, because even though Peacemaker was a whole bro that he didn't want nobody to know how he was feeling and nobody to see how much of a weirdo he was, he tried to toughen it out with all his foes and enemies. Not only that, but he made out to seem like he was the shit, knowing damn well he was stupid. But this show was fun. I actually liked it and surprised because the first couple minutes of the show, I'm like, okay, we're getting all this after what had just happened. And when the intro came on with all the dancing, I was in for this. I'm like, no way. And it's funny because I watched the first 3 episodes in advance, and when I'm like, my dad is like, okay, this is the show that just came out from DC. I had to be like, okay, I haven't seen it yet, so we're just watching it right now. And when that dance intro came on, my dad said, "Quita esta mierda, take the shit off." I'm like, but why? He's like, I thought this was serious. I'm like, it is a serious show. ¿Y por qué andan bailando así? Mira que esto es paja, esto es bullshit. I'm like, Dad, just watch it. I know you're not gonna like the intro. I said this. I'm like, I'm watching it with you side by side. I don't like it either. But we just caught along with the show. He didn't like it at first, but the show brought him in, and it's funny because he doesn't like. He says skip that shit every time the intro came on. But for the final episode, I kept it on, and I'm like, just watch it. We already this far in. Let's just have a good time with it. And credit where credit is due that James cared enough too much to actually include this scene at the very end of the series where a character, one of Team Peacemaker's team actually said, Amanda Waller, could you call in the Justice League to help us with this alien situation? Because, oh yeah, I didn't even mention this. So the thing about this show was, it also did a thing where the Suicide Squad said that, okay, the plan to stop Star was Project Starfish, and in this one it was called Project Butterfly, where these alien butterflies were landing on Earth, inhabiting bodies, invasion of the body snatchers kind of way, and they were actually trying to fulfill that plan, and it was feeding this giant worm, which me being trying to say, oh, this is weird. It almost looked like Silky from Teen Titans, but it wasn't Silky. But I was like, oh, so this is what we're doing here, and they're gonna have to stop it, and let's see how they do it. And through as dumb as the show was, I actually believed that this team could do it. But after, not only that, but also the Justice League coming in last second and Peacemaker talking shit, like telling Aquaman to go fuck a fish, and him looking at Barry's like, I'm sick of that rumor. I mean, it's not true. And he's like, fuck you, Barry. And they're just laughing it off. But Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa were the only ones there, because around that time it was questioned whether Gal Gadot would come back for Wonder Woman, but they got somebody Gal looking and somebody Henry-ish. But the weirdest thing was that he wanted to also include Batman and Cyborg, but DC said, nope, not you can touch them, but you can't touch these two. I'm like, oh, so there was some serious meddling, and this tells me that we're going to see some type of thing with the Justice League if everything doesn't get settled out. And that was it for this rendition of DC, where we had a plan. We didn't know where it was going to go moving forward, but there was a movie in the process of being made for years where I did mention that The Rock was cast as Black Adam, so I'm thinking, okay, we're going to get a Shazam movie with Black Adam, right? He's going to be the villain for the sequel. No, we were going to get a Black Adam origin movie, which I said, oh, so we're going to see the story of him actually seeing his son get murdered, and the wizard comes to him to be, I choose you as the protector, and through the powers of Shazam, you will have this power. So I'm like, we're going to see that story, and then it's going to end up with him turning evil and beating a tyrant, so like that. in the next movie he escapes, or at the end of this movie it shows that he's awakened, and we're actually going to see him fight Shazam, right? Right?
My son sacrificed his life to save me. These powers are not a gift, but a curse. Born out of rage. You locked it up.
This loose cannon needs to be locked down before innocent people start getting hurt.
He's been asleep for 5,000 years.
You find us a cell that can hold him, we'll take care of the rest.
Who's on the team?
I didn't bring a passport.
We don't need passports. We're the Justice Society. Black Adam.
We're here to negotiate your peaceful surrender.
I'm not peaceful. Nor do I surrender. Here we go. I kneel before no one.
You didn't come here to seek justice. You came to exact revenge.
I never said I was a hero. You believe you are not worthy. But fate does not make mistakes. You have two paths. You can be the destroyer of this world. Or you can be its savior.
Black Adam and the hierarchy of power in the DCEU universe was about to change. And it did change, not for the greatest, and was one of the biggest disappointments I've ever seen in in the DC universe, because going in, I thought it was going to be Black Manta versus the Justice Society of America, which it was a surprise to hear that they were going to be joining into this movie, because I'm like, okay, we have the Justice League, but this tells me that this movie is going to be taking place in the past, right? And it wasn't. It actually takes place in the present day, which... So, you're saying that we have Justice League and Justice Society members running around? And still no Justice League 2? Or you guys just said that wasn't a good idea? I'll take... Okay, I see what you're doing, but the idea is out there. And we actually had some characters I didn't actually think we were going to see for the first time in live action, like Hawkman, because I know we saw him on the CW, but I'm like, he's one of those characters they're gonna have to save for a different movie, or in case they want to do their own separate thing or TV show. I don't know. At some point, I feel like we're gonna see Hawkman again. Dr. Fate, which we just saw him in Injustice 2 and how they brought him back, so I'm like, okay, we're gonna see him actually be popularized on the big screen. And he was amazing. Not only him, but also one oddball, which I don't want to say he was miscast, but Atom Smasher into the DCU, because I'm like, wait a minute, we had the Atom exist. He's out there. And because of the Snyder Cut, they also included the Atom. So I'm like, hopefully he's going to be one of the recurring characters moving forward, even if they don't keep going with this. But we had Atom Smasher, but a younger version of him, which he was being too comedic. He had the powers and all, but I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing with this, but the main thing is going to be the Justice Society versus Black Adam, right? No, we didn't get that. All we got was Black Adam, or should I say The Rock, playing himself in this movie, which the pictures, I gotta say, him as Black Adam, he looked cool. Like, you believe when these actors get into shape for these roles. I'm like, okay, they put on a bit of muscle in this, but in a real fight, I'm not gonna believe it. But every move, every piece of action in this movie, it felt like The Rock could have done it even with and without powers. And I'm like, holy shit, he's strong as hell. Even with the skin tight suit, because they wanted to give him like a prosthetic suit, like one of the ones with the padding and all that. He's like, what do I need the padding for? I already have the muscle. And he looked big as Black Adam, because I'm like, damn. Any punch or anything I see you in, that punch is actually going to feel real. It's not going to look like it's a special effect. And it was practical for the most part, but some of the things I didn't like was that Black Adam is a villain. He's Shazam's villain. And he still has the powers of Shazam, but they idolize him to do good, to be an anti-hero. But it didn't make sense with this character. I'm like, oh, so this is not the movie I'm getting. And we had him fight a demon at the end of this movie, which is as forgettable as it seems, and it's only there for like the last couple minutes and then credits. And credits where it would lead to a Superman cameo with Henry Cavill coming back, but a week later it was confirmed that both The Rock and Henry Cavill aren't coming back as their characters because it was a financial flop, surprisingly, even though The Rock had star power bringing this movie over, and it failed. This movie failed at the box office that year, and it was supposedly the year of DC because in 2022 we had Black Adam, the Batman, and Peacemaker. I didn't mention the Batman because it's not relevant to the universe we're in. It was a movie that could have been Ben's movie, but they changed it up of story and changed directors and minds. And it's its own thing, but that's not pertaining to what I'm talking about here. And we're coming up to 2023, which if you watched me earlier on the O Review channel, you know that I did some reactions for these movies. I didn't do one early on for Shazam, but I did do it at a theater reaction, or should I say the pre-reviews before I did my reviews. And I did say, oh, this is interesting. They did all this, and this. But hopefully everything is good, but something about it is off, and I don't know what.
I'm an idiot. I don't deserve these powers, if I'm being honest. Like, what am I even contributing? Ow! There's already a superhero with a red suit with a lightning bolt on it. Aquaman is literally huge, and he's so manly. And Batman is so cool. And I'm just me. I feel like a fraud. It doesn't matter. Anyway, a wizard gave me superpowers. And then everybody got superpowers. Where's everyone going?
To fight crime?
Okay.
Now everyone's kind of like doing their own thing, and I'm the only one trying to keep it together.
You understand I'm a pediatrician, right?
Come on! Listen to me, Billy. The fate of your world depends on it. The daughters of Atlas are coming for you.
Children stole the power of all the gods. This is very personal, Billy.
Look, I might not have as much experience as you, because I'm not super old like you. But I've seen all of the Fast and the Furious movies, lady. It's all about family! Guys, that was a signal! Introducing the star of our show! His name is Shazam! Your world will not survive this.
I don't know how we fight powers like this.
You think I know how to fix this, dude, but I really don't. Really? Everyone can be worthy. Let's give it a chance. Now go fight for your family. Go fight for the world. I just threw a truck at a dragon. I love my life.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods. What I wouldn't say it's not a step down from the first one, but I feel like this was a change in plan, and you can tell because we were previously mentioned that we were going to get Black Adam versus Shazam. They set up a Shazam movie, then a Black Adam movie, so like that. In the sequel, we would actually see them two fight and also see that Superman would have been involved at some point because, yes, Henry Cavill was cut in the first one, so hopefully they could bring him back, seeing that in the post-credits scene we did see Superman come back, right? No. This was a change in direction and also one of the first missteps because it was supposed to release after The Flash, but they changed it up and switched it back where at first they had different costumes, a different perception of how the DC world works, and kept in timeline with what happened previously in the movies. So this would tell me, okay, the Justice League is still out there, they're doing their thing, but hopefully nothing is going to be different than the first time, right? And they introduced these new gods, the Daughters of Atlas, which they felt like threatening villains that could have worked because they were dealing with the gods and how the power of Shazam is actually bestowed onto these children. And I thought they were going to be, going after the Shazam family. And hopefully it was going to tease Black Adam at some point because he's still out there and they're not aware of another brother or another sibling of the letters are still out there. But no, that didn't happen. It was okay at best. It's not one of the worst DC movies on this list for the new timeline, but it was like, okay, you're not as good as it's one of those things where it's sequelized where the first one's good, the second one's not as good as the first one, but okay, hopefully it does fine. It had good reviews, but the thing is that this was one of the biggest mistakes made because nobody showed up. It came out the week before John Wick, and when I was going movie after movie after movie, this was the thing where everybody was done with DC. They knew that they were like, you know what? We're done with this universe. This ain't shit. And it went way below its budget and actually didn't make as much money as they thought they would. And I was like, wow. So everybody's mad with this. Not only that, but also in the case of bad timing, James Gunn did say he was going to take over at DC, and there was going to be a whole new set of movies coming up. Everybody knew that we're going to get a new Superman movie in 2025. We're going to get a new Batman and some new introductions to characters like Green Lantern, Booster Gold, Swamp Thing, the Creature Commandos. And I was like, oh, so this is going to be our whole new set, and all this is going to be leading to that, right? No. It clearly confirmed and said, okay, this universe or the next couple of movies we got coming up don't mean anything, so like that, these movies are going to be instant failures. And that was one of the key factors in why these DC movies didn't make as much money as they did. The second one on this list, what more do I need to say? Because you could do a whole It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia chart with when Charlie put all those pins in the office, leading to, okay, The Flash was supposed to come out in 2018. We're going to be adapting Flashpoint. Is going to be Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne Batman. We're going to have Reverse Flash, Multiverse, but they kept changing writer, director every other year up until they got to Andy Muschietti, who directed the It movies. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be our story, but they're still going to be adapting Flashpoint. But the thing is, they were going to be bringing back Michael Keaton Batman, which I'm like, oh, wait a minute, so he's coming back? Does that mean that the timeline they're in is the original movies? And we're going to see his version return, and introducing Supergirl to the DCEU, played by Sasha Calle, which I'm like, interesting that Superman is going to be played by a Spanish woman, and I'm like, that's kind of interesting because I've never seen that with these characters, and we did kind of get that with Marvel when they brought in Namor, and then when they brought in Moon Knight. So I'm like, okay, so this is going to be a new trend moving forward. But her design and her texture looked like she was playing the Lionel version of Supergirl, but she was Kara Zor-El, which I'm like, I mean, we got one on the CW, but hopefully you're good in it. So everything was set in motion. The Flash was being filmed. We heard it was going to be the thing that was going to reintroduce the universe, actually reset the timeline, and put everything back the way it is. But that's not the intention at mine at first. Because we thought, okay, everything is going to be reset. Something about Justice League is going to lead into a Justice League movie. But no, this meant that there was going to be a whole new change in company or a whole new change in the roster because Ben Affleck quit and they were going to turn Michael Keaton to the new DC Batman. And I'm like, okay, so what now? That is Henry Cavill still Superman? And no, Superman was just off to the bench. You could say his name, but he's not there, or they weren't saying any plans for a Superman movie. Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot was still going to return. Aquaman was still going to be Aquaman. And we were also going to get new characters in it too, because at first they said we were going to introduce the Crisis on Infinite Earths story, where they were going to have people go into different dimensions or different worlds within the multiverse. We're going to be seeing some characters, old characters, new characters. I'm like, so is this going to be Cameo City or something like that, where we're going to see everything the way it is, like in their world, like in Crisis on the CW, or whenever they do the crossovers and they go into other cities, you see different characters. I'm like, okay, so it's going to be their version of that, and also show the future of what's to come. But no, we weren't going to get that. Everything was going to be assembled to its own way to incorporate these characters and a new set of movies, because we got a Blue Beetle movie and a Batgirl movie announced on HBO Max. But the thing is that for that Batgirl movie, which sadly was canceled, and I don't know if at some point we're ever going to see it, showed that her Batman was actually Michael Keaton, and that Michael Keaton had a Robin. So it made me think, wait a minute, does that mean we're going to get some Batman characters and everything is going to be set into its own proper timeline? Okay, interestingly enough, I want to see a Nightwing on screen. So hopefully we get to it. Let's see what's going to happen. And the movie was done. It was set. It was quiet for a while because we were going to get something in 2022, since they said that's the year of DC. Up until the incidents where... Let me run you through this, because this is something I don't like talking about, drama and celebrity stuff, but this one was a wow. Where Ezra Miller in Hawaii caused some trouble and problems, where he threatened these people and threw a bottle at somebody's face, and he threatened these people, and he got busted in and out of jail, then went on a whole crime spree around the world where he was allegedly with an underage child, and allegedly had guns in his farm or house, that one of the kids grabbed it and it almost swallowed a bullet. And I might be I'm saying this as a way of, I don't remember everything up until that point, because I know he did these certain things like the ones everybody talked about, but it's all put away in the headcanon at this point. I feel like if it doesn't affect me now, why even talk about it? We know the stories, we know everything up until this point, and yes, he did these bad things, and it was like, when are we gonna get this movie? Because he tainted that movie's name, and not only that, people were boycotting it. People were like, okay, I want to watch this because of him, but I'm like, Grant Gustin, please come do this, please. And we're like, at this point, let it release. Hopefully it doesn't impact where everybody goes to watch it, because yes, they might hate The Flash, but don't forget that this movie also has Michael Keaton Batman, Supergirl to look forward to, and just because he did all these bad things doesn't mean the jobs and the pay of all these other people would be affected because of his actions. And when The Flash released, I was like, going with all that in my head, I'm like, okay, now that when I watch this on screen, hopefully I can just watch the movie for what it was. And I did kind of at first. Up until certain things, I'm like, okay, you're just changing all this because... And it doesn't feel like... This movie was leading to nothing, and through all the stuff, and bad CGI too, because this was where I noticed something is wrong, and I feel like AI and whatever, all this stuff they're talking about is affecting these movies, because this Flash had CGI that looked like computer graphics come to life, PlayStation 2 style, Xbox, like the original Xbox style animations, and even messing with some character lore, which there's one way of bringing back old characters for cameos, or just because they know the audience knows what they are. But if you're going to bring some of these characters with respect, know which characters specifically you pick, like the whole Christopher Reeve Superman thing. Yes, he's our Superman, but also please fix up the CGI if you're gonna respect his look and legacy. Not only that, but also don't say you didn't 3D or AI create actors or representations of what people look like, because there were AI characters in this movie, which that's a shame on a big company like this. But it's weird when there's a lot of bad things in it and they try to make it look cool. Like some of the action sequences look cool, like the running sequences, but some of it still looks like Ezra Miller doesn't even know how to run in real life, or they haven't learned from the CW whenever they do their running style. It's believable, but you can't say it's good when everything looks like a video game and it's not taking itself too seriously. Not only that, but it's a way of saying, okay, cameos, one thing. New characters, okay, we're going to do that. And the movie ends with just them dying. Because we knew that this time it was going to go wrong. And at some point it was going to merge into one big universe. Or supposedly ending this universe, because we didn't know where all this was going to lead up to. So Barry goes back, realizes this is an absolute point, and Michael Keaton Batman dies, Supergirl dies, and they're not brought back, because I remember how they said that the original ending for this was going to have Supergirl and Batman modern day, Batman 89 come into modern day, but it was changed so many times where they didn't know what the ending was going to be for this movie, and they cut the ending a week before the premiere, and you had to wait till the release to actually see what happened. But whenever you go look at the original trailers, and I did this too a while ago, because I have the early DC fandom trailer reaction, the first trailer and the final trailer. I don't think I did one for the second trailer, but also the final trailer. You can tell that there are some scenes that would have been the ending of this movie but weren't cut, and not only that, there were early set photos of Michael Keaton Batman in what was we didn't know at the time, was the ending of this movie, filming it outside. So it was just a land of mystery because we didn't know what was going to happen. Not only that, but also the only redeeming part about this is that even though Ezra Miller is allegedly a bad person in real life, the sequences they actually show with Barry and his mom, Nora, they reminded me of the TV show and all the stuff that was going on there, and it actually showed how much this is a story about somebody who wanted to bring somebody back, but through a series of consequences, this all wasn't meant to work. Everything was just part of a path that would have actually been solved if everything was done different, but we didn't get that movie for the whole 2 hours it was. Even though this was a thing that everybody likes to hate on, I enjoyed it, but then with rewatching it again and again, I'm like, I can't enjoy it as much as I used to, because I'll watch it for Michael Keaton, because that was my Batman. And everything here doesn't matter because you fucked up. You really messed it up for everybody. And now it's like, damn, this movie really ended what could have been a new way to bring back the story being told, but it wasn't. And all I gotta say is that I have to talk about this right away because I didn't even want to play the trailer before this, but here's the end of The Flash.
Thank you. Passing you into Mr. Wayne.
No, please don't. I need you here now, Barry.
So you're saying you could travel back in time?
Bruce, I can fix things. I can save people. I can save my mom. I can save your parents.
You could also destroy everything.
Love you, Matt. Yeah, I love you too.
So how was it this week? How's school?
School was good. This is mad trippy. Dude, this is catastrophic.
This world must die.
I'm not gonna lose her again.
here. Interesting group. Want some help? Wait, he's Batman? You wanna get nuts? Let's get nuts. This rips!
Worlds collide.
We're in uncharted territory.
The future begins.
We try not to die.
Are you ready?
Ready. Let's go.
You have fancy friends.
Yeah, it was an Uber. Oh, exact.
One final touch for the Flash before we end this one. The next movie, which I wouldn't say is a part of this universe, as people are saying it was, also that, but one of the surviving movies of the whole merger with HBO, where Blue Beetle was going to be originally released on HBO Max, but they saw something in this where they said, you know what, let this be a theatrical release, and it survived. Batgirl didn't, but Blue Beetle had a chance. Not only that, but also introducing Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, into the DCEU, or what could have been known as the new way of bringing in side characters, just like how Disney Plus used their platform to introduce Moon Knight, She-Hulk, characters like that. DC thought about doing that with HBO Max with their movies, because they originally had Blue Beetle, Static Shock, Black Canary, even who else they were going to introduce? They were going to introduce I know it was another character everybody was hyped up for, but I can't remember who it was. But anyway, they were going to introduce those characters, and we were going to get a whole new rendition of this universe, because this was filmed where this had no connections to the DC universe, where they would mention them by name, but there would be no big name characters or anything showing up in this. But this is the best part, because this movie detracted its own universe and set in its own world. One, nobody would know what world this is. They could say it's DC, but it doesn't seem like it could work in that universe. And that's up to question until now, because for everything this movie had, let's just be glad that this had an audience for it.
I wanna fly.
Let's do this.
You gotta force it to come out. What are you?
You're a genius.
What? I know. What'd I say?
Did you know what was going to happen to my brother when you stuck him with this world-destroying thing?
It's called the Scarab.
I had no idea it would activate.
It has to choose you.
So how do we get it to unchoose me?
Host acquired.
Who said that?
Systems checker 3, 2. Host overreacting. Threat approaching. Engaging host protection. Threat eliminated.
What do you think the government is gonna do when they figure out that some kid has this military tech?
We are going to change the world with the power of the Scarab. It belongs to me.
Oh, he's pissed. Listen to me! Uptown, baby. You got the wrong guy! I'm a nobody! I swear!
The world is a place to protect.
I have an arsenal at my disposal.
Anything, please!
Watch and learn, Jaime. Whatever you can imagine, I can create.
Yeah,
like it.
That love you feel for your family makes you weak.
You're wrong. My family, that's what makes me strong.
Oh, I forgot how bad it looks.
Target the family.
Sorry, my mama.
Jaime, you are our superhero, cabrón. You're the Blue Beetle.
I could use that arsenal right about now.
God, you never ask.
Hell yeah. They've been trying to stop the way. Bust it down, bust it down.
I advise we back away.
I might have a bit of a bias for it, but I find it kind of funny how they're the only Hispanic superheroes I had at the time were, or should I say, seen and represented in film, were Namor, and also if you counted Supergirl previously in the Flash. So I'm like, okay, we're seeing more of our faces on screen, and also what could have been Batgirl, and we didn't get that one. So damn, I wanted to see what she could have done with the role, but. Man, I wish that movie wasn't canceled just so we could see what could have happened. But yeah, this was interestingly enough because I knew that people don't know DC. They're like, okay, who's Blue Beetle? I know the other ones. Like when you say Batman, Superman, they know that. But people know the Flash. Some people know Shazam because of the first one. And this is one of those obscure characters that like people like me would know because we've seen Young Justice. We know he's a part of the Teen Titans. But let's see what they do with him in the live action, because we don't see anyone younger enough to Shazam counts, but there's no teenage sidekick team out there to represent these characters because we had Titans at the time, but that wasn't connected to anything. So we had to see like, okay, what's this character gonna be like? And Jaime Reyes actually did it cool, especially since around Cobra Kai when that started out. I saw Zula Maridueña as Miguel, and I'm like, weirdly enough, because I saw it on YouTube when it was on YouTube Red. Then when it went over to Netflix and I was rewatching season 1 and 2, I was like, you know what would be crazy? He looks like he can play Blue Beetle, but knowing DC, they're not going to do it. And when DC announced a Blue Beetle movie, I was like, I don't know if they're gonna do it, but I feel like if they were gonna pick somebody to play Blue Beetle who's Hispanic enough, I say Miguel from Cobra Kai. And when he announced he was playing Jaime Reyes, I was like, "This is one of the first predictions I actually got right." Yes, and it's funny because when you look at him in Cobra Kai, you see him grow up and actually go from boy to man. And in Blue Beetle, I'm like, "Damn, I can't get that out of my mind because." Is going to look believable, and this was one of their first movies where they actually used a practical suit for DC ever since now that they did all CGI costumes and stuff like that. This suit was more unique, it felt more alienated, and with the little added effects they did to it, I believe some of the stuff, and they actually did some of the creative things with the Scarab, like the blasters, the bowling balls, even transforming the sword into the Master Sword from Final Fantasy. It was cool, especially some of the family elements, because I didn't expect this movie to hit, but I'm like, damn, coming from an Hispanic household, I'm like, I believe it. And it's kind of messed up because it foreshadowed some stuff for me to come. I'm like, damn, I don't like seeing this. This feels too personal now. But yeah, it was a good story. It's average at best as one of the hero origins because we've seen a couple of them at this point. But I gotta say, it was disconnected enough where James Gunn looked at it and said, "We'll give it a post-credit scene," and it actually showed that one of the original Blue Beetle's headquarters is alive. So I'm like, "Oh, we got the original one out there," but it's not gonna make sense. But James Gunn did confirm that Zola would stay as Blue Beetle, but it's still word of mouth just in case this movie he's in is in canon with the new DCEU. But we didn't know that yet, and it's still unconfirmed whether or not Blue Beetle is canon to the new universe. But we got a good movie on our hands, and we all knew that the next one was going to be not only a mixed thing, but like a mistake yet to happen. But we all didn't expect this movie to be the one that would not only be a sequel, but also be the concluding chapter of our DCEU.
4 years ago, I was basically unemployed. A wanderer with no home. But now, I'm a husband and a father. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't know how you did it, Pops. My job was a little less stressful than yours. Oh yeah, I finally got a job. I'm the king of Atlantis. 500 million people from every known species in the sea call this place home. But that doesn't mean they don't like me. I'm gonna kill Aquaman and destroy everything he holds dear. I'm gonna murder his family and burn his kingdom to ash.
He must be stopped, or a global meltdown is imminent.
I think I know someone who might be able to help us. Ooh, you look rough. Good job, little brother. High five. Do not call me brother. I cannot believe you let this happen. Yeah, well, I hate this job. True king builds bridges, right? True king builds bridges. We need to find Manta. He's different now. He's stronger than before. It's the Black Trident. During King Atlan's time, there were 7 kingdoms. The Trident was a curse upon them all.
The Trident's dark magic is spreading.
He means to end the bloodline. I don't know what lies ahead, but we can't leave our children a world without hope. You're not as bad at this as you think. If you lead, the 7 kingdoms will follow.
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Yeah, I saw this one. I still have a review up on the channel if you haven't watched it yet. But this movie took me a bit of time to think about it because I'm like, this movie's not as bad as people were making out it to be. I'm like, yeah, it seems a bit rushed. Like, if you have to watch the first movie to understand this one, and there's a lot of flashbacks to the first one, so like that people can get caught up on what happened in the first movie. But something told me this was not the movie James Wan made because it's about an hour or so max with credits, claiming to be 2 hours. But there's a lot of plot holes in this where I feel like, okay, so Black Manta's already on this journey, but how did he get here? And not only that, Black Manta in this movie, still the best part. He stole the show in the first one, and for as much of a villain as he was in this, I was glad to see he was ruthless enough to go against Arthur Curry. Not only that, but in the iconic black suit, which we almost had a glimpse of it in the first one as his first proto helmet, and then switched over to the black helmet with the big eyes, but we actually got the full helmet. And I gotta say, these Aquaman movies know their design work because they can be as ridiculous as they look, even the right colors, and it still looked awesome and threatening, especially during the fights. But this movie, it felt like it was a bit too rushed, like some scenes were missing or something could have been added in, but they didn't spend too much time on it. And I feel like the original plan was going to lead to something different, where originally Aquaman was going to have a spin-off movie called The Trench, which was going to deal with the sea creatures from the first movie. But after everything got canceled, it was revealed that that was supposed to be a solo Black Manta movie, which would lead into Aquaman 2, which I was like, what? Yeah, I really canceled this out and said no. Okay, oh man, DC. So now we're in with Black Manta getting control of the Trident from the Lost Kingdom, which didn't even get mentioned into it up until an hour in this movie, as we're entering the third act. And I'm like, okay, so there's a lot going on. I'm not paying attention to it for the most part. I'm just watching it for the colors. And there was some stuff in here I like. Jason Momoa gave off a good last performance as Aquaman. Ocean Master, which it's funny how I said this in my review and people noticed it right after, that his Patrick Wilson's look in this movie is basically what the original Aquaman design is, even with the gold hair and stuff. He wasn't wearing orange, but that's exactly how his character would be and sound if they casted it right, if it was not Jason Momoa. But yeah, the movie just ends there. Mara's barely in the movie, which, thank God, yeah, did that, but yeah, didn't kill her off, which, yeah, really teased us when Black Manta threw that trident at her face, and Orm caught it last second, where I'm like, damn, you know what we want. My theater cheered, but then booed right after when that happened. But yeah, the movie ends everything here. Aquaman giving one last speech, which metaphorically is talking about the kingdom of Atlantis and the surface world, but also a metaphor for what, damn, we can rebuild bridges or something like that. We can actually do better the next time we see each other. So I'm like, damn, this is going to be a good bye to DC, but then it parodies Iron Man and Black Panther when Tony is like, I am Iron Man. He grabs the mic, he's like, I am Aquaman. And he just walks off screen where I'm like, damn, yeah, I really reshot this just for that. Just to say one fuck you and bye. And that's not the last scene of the DCEU. The last scene of the DCEU, I'm going to say this. The DCEU started with the birth of Superman. And the DCEU ends with Orm eating a cockroach in a burger. And that's how we end off the DCEU. This universe had a lot of missteps from the beginning, even though the studio itself wasn't respecting their property as much. DC now is its own studio. Now that James Gunn is going to be running things over at DC and we have a schedule on our way, let's hope until March when we see a bit of production and a bit of set photos on Superman Legacy, we can get a bit of hope, because I know it's going to be hard for some of the Zack Snyder people to take care of or accept that we're not getting that Zack Snyder universe no more. We got to release the Snyder Cut, but the Snyderverse doesn't get to live on. But with James Gunn now at the helm, hopefully Superman Legacy is planning out to be a good movie, because not only is it one of those, oh, we're in a world full of superheroes this time, and now that everything is here, like, we're in the middle of the DC universe. We don't need to see origin stories. We're just here to see characters for who they are, and especially what exactly is the world going to be now that we're not introducing characters and we're just going straight into it. This is going to be a pre-origin story for Superman, and not only that, we also have characters like Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, played by Nathan Fillion, Hawkgirl, surprisingly in this movie, which I'm like, damn, we could have brought back Hawkman because he was a good guy. He was perfect casting. Mr. Terrific. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is stacked up to where there's a lot of people that should be either in the Justice Society or not ready in a Superman movie yet, because I'm like, this is Superman's movie and you're including characters from Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Hawkman maybe out there. Not only that, but also characters like Metamorpho and Lex Luthor are villains, kind of. Which I'm like, okay, this is too exaggerated as it is, but this tells me I feel like I know what they're doing, and no, they're not just going to be setting up character movies just for character movies. They're taking advantage of the DC universe that they're in, and also it's starting to give me feels of like the original Justice League United animations, like the whole Bruce Timm style animations of the Justice League DC animations. I feel like they're going to be taking inspiration from that and settling, yes, all these characters exist, but not only that, that doesn't mean they're in here for a long time. That just shows that they're in here, and hopefully it brings us access to new worlds, because James Gunn is creative when he does things with characters that we don't know about. Because look at the Guardians. Nobody cared about Guardians of the Galaxy until that came out. and the Suicide Squad, because some people didn't like the first one, and when he did the second one, everybody loved it, and had actually brought Peacemaker into his own show. And everybody who didn't know Peacemaker were like, who? Actually know Peacemaker thanks to him. So I'm like, the DC universe is in good hands. Hopefully, we can get back on the streak again, because Marvel is struggling at the moment. And I feel like this is the thing now. Marvel is going to be having a time to restructure and see what they're going to do with their whole Kang situation, while DC is going to be getting ready to start it over again and actually do good with their fans like they should have done the first time. Alright guys, thank you guys for watching. I feel like now that we're in a state where the O review is going to be doing the podcasting stuff with the news on the thing here, I feel like Retro Throwbacks is going to be the new section of when I talk about things I like. I did talk about DC, but there are other genres or film franchises that actually need to look back at, and I feel like with some of the things we know now, I feel like, I was so excited for it back then, and especially when I rewatched the trailers, because I'm like, damn, I remember these feelings back in the day. They're not what we got, but damn, I wish we could go back to when all these movies were hyped and we could go back to actually feeling like they were going to be good. And not only that, but Warner Brothers messed up too, because the Snyder Cut or the original version of Justice League was just as good as it is. You could have at least cut it down a bit and actually keep going with these plans, because everything was going to end on Darkseid, on Apocalypse. Even Apocalypse War did the animation before they could have ended it, because I'm like, damn, we could have actually seen some version of this story in live action, but we didn't. Everything just ended. And this universe has no resolution. I already did my thing with the ending of DC with the Our Way video, but that's it. That's how a universe dies. Not only by that, but a studio not caring about the characters and just making movies thinking everybody was going to show up with them. And that's how we end this note. Not with a bang, but a whimper. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys stay tuned for the next one, because the next one, I'm going to be deciding which franchise I do. Hopefully everybody agrees with it, but I just know I just like pissing people off when I say there's some good things, but looking back at it, it's not as good as I thought it was, but that's how things are. Films are subjective, and they're all in for good interest. Alright guys, thank you guys for listening. Leave a like, subscribe. My link tree is in the description and in my profile for the O-Review channel. So if you want to find me on other sites, go over there if you want to check me out. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.